again.
Yes, we're back for episode 4.
Episode 4. What are we going to talk about this episode?
We're going to talk about dating. Yeah? Very exciting.
A very light topic in comparison to the last one?
Yes. It could be deeper, but I think we want to have this discussion a little bit lighter than usual, I guess.
So something a little more playful, less serious? Almost like
just like the dating itself.
So you're basically saying we're on a date. That's what you're trying to convey, huh?
Not with you, but yeah.
Wow, I'm offended. I'm not good enough for you? All right, where do we want to start? We want to start start at the beginning. If you're a man, typically the only way to garner a date is either a dating app or approaching women.
Right.
Something
pretty
we've
much
done a lot and we love to do and enjoy talking about and doing when we go out.
Yes, we do. Recently, let's start with the actual dating apps, right? Because recently we've been using it, right?
Yeah.
Under these circumstances that we're having. So, I mean, I'm not against dating apps, obviously, but I have to say though that from a certain point, it's really exhausting. I really have to say that because the process itself is so. There are a lot of pauses in between. I have to get a match first, right? And then I have to message her usually, and then what I've found on dating apps, sort of trend is that guys spend more time on dating apps than girls do.
I think that's an inherent design because there's always going to be more dudes willing to, hook up or look for relationships with women than there are going to be women looking for guys.
Yeah.
So it's just uneven. So I think it's in the benefit of most, women, chicks, things like that, for them to just open it up and they get to select because most of us guys have relatively low standards, I think, and we'll take what we can get. A lot of guys at least.
And guys, we know this because we know a lot of friends like that. Okay, we're not guessing on this. Guys are, especially dating apps. It's hard to put a percentage to it, but a lot of guys are there to just. With a sore purpose, actually, usually hookups, right? I think that's their purpose a lot of times. But even then, you have to land a first date, and even getting to that point is kind of exhausting to me, honestly, because first of all, texting is not really fun for me. It really doesn't convey the meaning or the feelings of what I want to say. And like I said, there are a lot of pauses. It's not like texting to that person's number. You have to wait for it, right? So even if the conversation is going really well, with that pause, hours, a day, whatever, you lose that momentum.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
And it kind of changes the entire exchange. Kind of like the conversation, the dialogues. Very different depending on how much time's elapsed. The moment of joy and excitement, like, oh, this person looks cool or interesting, can quickly shift to the next day to be, maybe I'm not really interested, or maybe you're looking over the pictures more. She's not as cute as I initially thought, or you're looking through the bio.
Yeah.
And you think, maybe I just won't respond. I think this happens to both parties, and then it kind of just fizzles and dies out, which is why usually the first thing I do when I match with somebody is immediately try to meet up for coffee, which can rub people the wrong way because a lot of people seem to want to get to know each other a little bit better.
Right.
But I'm in the same boat you're in, where I feel like I can't communicate who I am effectively through just these little characters on a phone and some emojis. It doesn't convey my true self very well. And that's why I think it's better to be in person, because you also can't get that from the other person you're exchanging these words with.
Right.
You don't get a real idea of who they are, body language, and chemistry.
That happens less if you exchange text with someone that you know really well, right? There's a less chance of misunderstanding the person, but we're talking about this brand new person who you don't know, and that the person doesn't know you at all, right? So the texting can mislead in many different ways. So, like I said, all that given, I find it really exhausting. It's not really fun for me. So I personally prefer. You've used that word before, organically meeting girls, or organically meeting people in general. That's what I prefer because it's really fun. It's just one shot, you know. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, you know. Like you can get the result right away.
There's no mystery. There's no waiting
exactly.
to see if they're going to swipe right on you, or if you're going to have that feedback.
Yeah.
There's no really game, so to speak. You can kind of know immediately within a few moments. Oh, is this person willing to engage and interact with me?
Through their facial expressions, you know, things like that. How they talk, you know, whether or not they're, you know, looking at your eyes, whether or not they're engaged. You can gauge that in so many different ways, right? So I prefer that way more than dating apps. Dating apps could be fun in certain occasions, but I think I'm just done with it. You know, I think I'm done with it. I'm not gonna use it anymore.
Wow, this is after a date last night. Oh man, maybe that'll be for the Patreon only ones. I think right there.
It's gotta be. For
a very specific reason.
Yeah.
I understand. I think the best thing you can get from a dating app is that you're allowed to meet people that you may not otherwise entirely, whether it's due to location, proximity, or just general interest altogether. For example, you and I, we spend most of our time active and we're outgoing. We're pretty busy guys. You know, when we're in the gym, if it's lifting, we're usually not conversing with people. We're there with a plan and an agenda, so we usually lack the socializing. So in that given situation, it makes it more difficult to maybe engage with people in an organic way because we already have a plan and we're trying to just execute that plan. So that's one benefit that these dating apps have. In some of these downtime or these situations where you're bored and maybe you want to try to meet with somebody, that's when they can become very useful. And you can meet with people from such different walks of life that you may not have even seen at the gym or met in these encounters that you just typically put yourself in, grocery store, the bars, etc. So I think that's the benefit. But there's always a stipulation. I think you should not put any of your ego and self-worth into these apps because they're just not representative of reality in its entirety.
Yes, very
I think
valid
it should
point.
be a small part of your, for lack of a better term, your dating plan or your dating strategy. You should also be, in conjunction with using these apps, meeting people regularly, in person, organically, as you said. And I think you'll find a lot more benefit from that because you get the playfulness, you get the engagement, you get the flirtation, the eye contact, you know, the subtle back and forth, the wittiness. And you can really build something that's way more personable and enjoyable via just that human one-on-one interaction. Or just in-person interaction. It doesn't necessarily have to be one-on-one. Maybe you're in a group setting. But it has an undeniable, lovable quality. And you just stand out way more. When you're swiping right, hot or not, basically, as a girl or a guy, you're not getting people. You're getting images of people. So it's easy to be entirely detached from realizing on the other end of that there's an actual person with feelings, emotions, and all these other things.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Hey, you should speak to the mic though. You're pretty far. You're talking. Yeah. Yeah. Very true. And then I understand it could be meeting people organically could be uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially in this day and age. People are not, especially kids, the younger generations, you know, they are not really comfortable socializing with the people. They don't know, or they're not really comfortable even making eye contacts with people, right? So these dating apps could be very beneficial for people like that, introverts, I guess. But also, you know, that doesn't mean that you should stay that way. You know, you can put yourself in an uncomfortable situation so that you can maybe, play it in a different way. That's also another way to find out what kind of elements about yourself you can change or you can challenge, right? So I think in that sense, it could be very beneficial, even trying it.
So there's a benefit of self-discovery in the dating process.
Absolutely.
As long as you're willing to put yourself out there and engage with other people. You might find a lot out about yourself. Maybe you're extremely uncomfortable with these social interactions. Maybe that's because you've never done it. I think a lot of people fail to realize the uncomfortability is not revolved around necessarily the action, but the lack of repeatability in the action. So basically, to sum it up, it's the experience. When you're new to something, no matter what it is, there's going to be a level of discomfort because you're so aware of what expertise look like, or you're so aware of how uncomfortable, how inefficient you are, whether this is a sport, a new game, or a new social setting. You're immediately aware that, wow, I am not good at this, and this does not feel good. But that doesn't necessarily mean what you're doing or engaging in is a negative. It's just an opportunity to maybe grow and get more comfortable in that thing. And this one is worth getting comfortable in for so many different reasons, from the way you interact with employers, employees, friends, random people you meet. By having the ability to approach women and just open up a discussion with them and convey interest or other things that you want to get across will apply to so many other areas of your life that'll be
Absolutely.
beneficial.
That's a really good point, that those skills and experience can translate to other situations, interacting with people in general, right? So that's a really important point. And not just interacting, but also speaking in front of people in general, right? It could be presentation, it could be just small meeting, or you have to talk to people. Not necessarily they're not talking to you, you're not having conversation with them, but you may have to present some ideas, for a certain amount of time. And those kind of things, skills, that experience can actually help you build up that, skills, or, that occasions that are necessary for, those kind of situations. Yeah.
I would totally agree. I think it's similar to, I'm going to speak about rock climbing because it's something we do. Whether you're rope climbing, bouldering, or doing anything of that nature, you're going to run into a situation where you have to make a move that is extremely uncomfortable, and you feel like you have to commit, and you don't think you're going to be able to do it. There's going to be fear in your head. Maybe the move is new to you. Maybe you've never done the route. Maybe you're just brand new to the climbing experience altogether. But what happens is eventually you're going to try to make the move, probably fall, as we all do. And then you'll realize, oh, that was it. I fell. I didn't hurt myself. Nothing's bad. It wasn't that big of a deal. And that'll build you some confidence to go do it again. Until eventually, oh, wow, you've stuck the move. This is the same thing with approaching women or approaching the opposite sex or the same sex. Whoever you're approaching, is that you're going to get rejected. This is going to happen.
Yeah,
it has to happen. It's necessary. Because, again, if it didn't happen, you probably wouldn't appreciate when you have success and when you hit it off with somebody. So you shouldn't necessarily be so much afraid to be rejected. I mean, how many times have we been rejected? I can't count. More than we've ever been accepted, Absolutely.
Right.
But you go there, you shoot your shot, have fun in it. Don't take it seriously. Realize that it has so little to do with you. And just accept the outcome. And let it go. If it's something good comes of it, cool. If it's a negative experience, you can reframe your mind to think of it in a positive way. You can laugh it off. I mean, you probably remember this girl in Austin. We were out, we were drinking, it's late at night, probably about midnight. Two cute girls sitting down. I'm like, oh, wow, she's gorgeous. I want to go talk to her. So, yeah, man, go for it. So I go over there and start talking to her. And immediately she's like, oh my God, what are you doing? I don't want to talk to you. And she's just giving me a ear beating. I mean, she's going in hard on me like, oh my God, who do you think you are? Totally drunk.
Right.
And I'm just sitting there. I just asked, how's your night going?
Right.
And her friend's covering her mouth and mouthing to me, essentially whispering like, I am so sorry. And I'm just sitting there taking it. And I'm like, okay, well, you guys have a good night.
Yeah.
I got back to you and laughed it off. But this experience happens a lot of times. Usually it's not that drastic. Usually people are just simple. They give one-word responses.
Right.
Why are you out tonight? Just wanted to come out. Okay.
Yeah. Just the coldness. Or
you can sense that. You
yeah.
can pick up on that.
For
and you
sure.
can accept it gracefully. You can say, well, I thought you were cute. I just wanted to say, have a good night.
Right.
And then you can walk away.
Yeah.
You still got your message across, and that'll
Yeah.
probably make their night feel better.
Right.
Oh, somebody thinks I'm cute. That's
Yeah.
cool. Even if I'm not interested, that's nice. I mean, I love getting compliment, even if I'm not interested. It doesn't matter if it's from a guy, a girl,
Right.
old woman, old man. Thank you.
Mhm.
I appreciate that. That was
Mhm.
kind of you.
Yeah. There's a lot of takeaways from that. One, rejection is part of the game, so don't be afraid of it. It's just part of the game. And it has almost nothing to do with you. I mean, just think about it. That person doesn't know you at all. So it shouldn't really hurt your ego at all. Usually it's them. Maybe they're having a bad night, or their friends are being an asshole that night. There are many different reasons, but it's usually not you. Again, that person doesn't know you, so it shouldn't really matter. And I mean, I want to include women in this discussion too, because sometimes they approach guys too, but we're talking about more about guys in this situation, because majority of the times the guys are the ones who actually approach the other party.
More
right?
times than not.
Yes. So anyway, the rejection is part of the game. Don't be afraid of it. And maybe you can actually get better at it, right? Sometimes the first rejection could be really hard on you, right? Oh, what did I do wrong? But you haven't done anything wrong, okay? That person just doesn't want to talk to you. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to just move on. But maybe it's good to have some, like a closing line, right? Because a lot of times, I've seen this a lot of times, guys get rejected and they just get rat-faced and they don't know what to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said earlier, just simple line of, oh, okay, have a good night, whatever. Just walk away. Maybe that's something that you can prepare before approach girls. That way, you can deal with that situation a little bit better, right? So I think you can be strategic for sure, and practice preparation. Unfortunately, it's necessary for guys. And it comes with experience, man. Again, you have to do it a lot. It's just like, it's like you playing a game. Read an instruction and playing a game are two different things, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you can prepare all day long, whatever. I mean, you can study it. You can go to college. Maybe I can probably make a major out of it. But if you don't really do it, it's not going to be yours,
Absolutely. And it's something that, like you were saying, to make it yours, you have to inject your personality and your desire and what you want into it. Because as much as it's a game, you're also your own character.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be willing to go out there, get those experience points, level up, so to speak.
Right.
Change your outfit, the way you're presenting yourself, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Take a deep look in the mirror. Not only physical outward appearance, but also emotionally. How are you conveying yourself? Is your tone of voice wrong when you approach a woman? Do you seem creepy? Do you seem a certain way? And again, having a friend or somebody that cares about you that can be honest with you is going to have a huge impact on your ability to get this information. Because you shouldn't be taking information from some random stranger that rejects you.
Right.
You just shouldn't, because they might be, they don't know you. Their opinion may not be valid. Not to say that it's completely invalid, but it should be weighted very low percentage. Weight it very lightly, because again, they don't know you. They don't know your history, your background, where you're coming from.
Maybe you're just ugly, right?
Yes, there's a lot of people that are ugly, and there's nothing wrong with being ugly. But
yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what, I know some guys and girls that are not very physically attractive, but oh my God, they are some charming motherfuckers.
Right.
That makes it.
Absolutely.
They're the most attractive people in the room as soon as they start talking, because they have confidence, because they're not worried about how others necessarily perceive them. And they've learned to be comfortable in their skin, who they are. And that attractiveness is so much deeper than just a physical outward appearance that in a lot of cases we had no choice in. We didn't choose to be born and look a certain way. We can choose how our physique looks, our aesthetics, the clothes we wear, we have a bit of impact, but our faces and some of the other things we have no control over. So
almost none.
We should take control over the things that actually have impact that we can change. Again, so that would be, are we going to be in shape, our vocabulary, work on these skills and these other things, not to win a partner. Again, don't do this just to win a partner.
Right.
A byproduct is it's easier to attract somebody when you take care of yourself and when you love yourself.
Right. It's more of a self-improvement thing, right? Talking to girls or talking to guys, like I said, both sides, we can get a lot of things out of it. But also, another thing that you can work on, in addition to what we've talked about, is that it's a process of validating your self-esteem. As you do it a lot, you can actually, whether or not you have a high self-esteem, you can actually validate your self-esteem. You need to have this mindset. This could be actually applied to a lot of different things where you're interacting with someone for a certain interest, right? So you have to understand in this kind of situations, things are mutual. Like it could be audition, it could be job interview. You should understand that this is mutual. That person needs you.
Yes.
That person need a good person or very competent person for that opening job. And you need a job. This is mutual. You're not going in there just because you want to bag for the job. That's already wrong approach and wrong stance walking in. And approaching girls should be the same thing. This is mutual,
Absolutely.
That mindset actually can give you a lot of confidence. You're not going in there for, bagging or for yourself or your interest alone. That person has also interest potentially, obviously, if you do a good job, right? But anyway, the point is, this skills, this mindset could translate into a lot of different situations.
Absolutely. I think that's an important topic to touch on, is that it being mutually beneficial is essentially saying it's not selfish. It isn't all about you. And that's worth applying to every avenue of your life, because the second you think it's only about you, you miss the other person entirely.
Right.
You miss the joy in the exchange of dating, of flirting, the back and forth. If you're going there with the only purpose is that I'm going to get laid or I'm going to have this girl attracted to me, you're missing out entirely on everything, the other person. You might as well just go out there and be alone, or you might as well just masturbate. What's the point? Why are you even engaging with somebody else if it's only about you? Things being mutually beneficial also relieves some pressure, because then you realize, the other person's here to have a good time as well. They want to enjoy their night. They want to be out with their friends, drink. They want to feel attracted. They want to feel wanted. They want to feel desired. So when you're approaching people and you're discussing and talking to them, when you take an interest in where they're at in their life as well, they're going to reciprocate. And not to say this is going to happen all the time, but it's more beneficial for you. Because the pressure's not going to be all on you to perform.
Right.
It's going to be about a shared activity, a shared gratitude, a shared enjoyment of the night. How many nights have we had, man, where we've gone out, we've met people, talked to them, and that's it. That's where the night ends. We never see them again. We never talk to them again. But those are still wonderful nights because of the experience we shared, because of how fleeting they are. But it's because we were open to having a deep conversation. Or we were open to hearing their thoughts. It wasn't about, oh man, we have to pull these girls. We got to do it. We got to make something happen. And like you said, this goes to your employers, your employees. When you realize this is to be a mutual beneficial relationship, it changes the entire way you behave, your expectation of the outcome, and everything. And I believe it ultimately does it for the better. So you want to be an active player in this, because again, it's mutual. You want to have active involvement in your life, and that's one thing I think a lot of the younger generation may be missing out on because of COVID is that you're not running into so many situations where you're looking for something that's mutually beneficial because everything was shut down. So a lot of people haven't had the opportunities to be in these social environments. And again, since so many people are glued into their phones or the internet and things like that, maybe they haven't developed the skill set to effectively communicate in person the way they want to. They're probably more effectively communicating via text, emojis, Snapchat, all these other social media platforms. But as good as those platforms are, they'll never be as complex, as subtle as body language and the human face-to-face interaction, which is why it's so valuable to grow this skill set, because you will stand separate from peers and other people your age because they haven't taken the time to develop the skill set.
Right.
And it's a wonderful skill set to have because it makes all avenues of your life easier when you know how to deal with people. It doesn't matter if it's romantic or otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true.
So how about we talk about something a little more fun?
Mm-hmm.
How about sexual compatibility?
Sexual compatibility.
That's a part of dating.
Right.
Something that is probably not talked about very often publicly, usually among close friends and people that you trust, just because the topic is so intimate.
Yes. I mean, obviously, it's very important, right? I mean, dating, in my opinion, I don't know how we can, define it, but dating doesn't necessarily have to go into the realm of relationship, right? It doesn't. It could be just playful time with someone. In that sense, I think sexual compatibility is very important, right? Well, especially as a guy, I guess.
I think more so as a woman because I think women typically have a lot more involved process to have an orgasm, whereas a man, long enough time, it's going to happen. Right. So we're just like machines in that regard almost. Not all men are like this either.
Right.
There's definitely variation. I mean, I personally want to have an emotional intimacy there in order to have a sexual gratification. But a lot of men aren't like that. A lot of women aren't like that either. So
yeah, true.
It's important to know what you enjoy sexually. And again, being open to maybe exploring new sexual not identities, but sexual acts, maybe, for lack of a better term. So that you're open-minded that maybe you're missing out on something. Maybe a new partner you're meeting has a kink something that you've never thought you would enjoy performing or being performed on. But trying it once, you're like, oh, wow, I really like this. Or maybe you only like it with this one individual.
Right.
But being open to that can really change the possibilities and the gratification from
they expand
dating.
The boundary of your gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man, and I that's pretty simple. I think to me, a topic to talk about. I mean, the only way to find out is to actually have sex with her or with that person, right? And first thing though, you may not have a good sex with that person because that person is new, right? You gotta give few tries at least. Things could get better, but
how
even after,
convenient, few tries.
No, that's how it is, man. I mean, the first sex could not it doesn't necessarily represent the potential compatibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think you should give at least a few tries.
I think so too. I mean, it's like
and if it doesn't happen after a few tries, then move on.
Poor girl.
Or just remain as friends. I don't know.
Absolutely. You should be able to communicate that effectively as well in a sensitive way because people take it very personally. When it's not it's not intended to be personal or offend them personally, but sometimes there's just the lack of compatibility, and a lot of people would rather even not know that, I think.
Yes.
But you should also consider it, again, we're going to get into climbing, so when you first get to we'll say a boulder problem, you try it for the first time. If you successfully try it, it's called a flash. Depending on the difficulty or the uniqueness of the climb, it can be very difficult to flash climbs. Just like when you're hooking up with somebody, it can be very difficult to have a great performance on your end or their end.
Right.
Which is why you should give it multiple tries.
Yeah.
Give it a fair shot is essentially what we're saying by that.
Absolutely.
And there can be fun in that. Again, this should be playful. Just like your interactions and your communications are playful back and forth. The sexual experience, ideally, again, this is my opinion, should be playful. You should have fun. You should be enjoying each other, enjoying each other's bodies, the emotions, the experience. And that can lead to something deeper if there's compatibility there.
Yeah.
You know, or if there's an agreement that that's where you're trying to head. You can actively try to build something.
And, you know, just like the sexual part of the dating, as you said, you should have fun. But dating itself, right, in general, should be something that you should approach with a light mindset that, you know, you're just trying to have fun with someone. You know, I think that's an important part of dating, that you shouldn't really take it too seriously unless you're considering going into a relationship with that person. But at first, earlier stage at least, you should be having fun. You know, just don't think about it too complicated way. So I think, I like to add that part that, you know, you're there to have fun.
I agree. I think we can't express it enough because how many times do you hear about people go to counseling, marriage counseling, couples counseling, and the number one thing is it's just not like when we were dating. We have to start dating each other again. There's a reason there's such a heavy emphasis on dating, and the enjoyment we get from that is because when we have a relationship and familiarity with somebody, typically it changes the relationship. It shifts from this kind of dating playfulness to a more serious tone. And not to say there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but we also can't forget this is my partner, or I'm interested in this person. I like to be playful with them. And it's so important that we consistently try to engage with our partner in these ways, in a playful way, a romantic way, trying to understand, trying to appreciate, you know, maybe even what they're wearing that night or that day or what they're doing, and remind them that, oh yeah, I dig you. I like who you are. I like the way you project yourself. I like the energy you give off, your vibe. And when you do that, even if you don't necessarily feel that entirely, by doing that, the other person is going to essentially, typically, mirror what you're giving off. So remember, when you go out in the world dating, people usually reflect back the energy you put out, or the vibe, or the body language. So when you're smiling, you're happy, you're laughing, people naturally want to laugh and smile back at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just human nature to mirror. And not to say you should be trying to take advantage of this, but realize it exists. And the happier you are, and the more fulfilled and more engaged you are, it's going to rub off on people. And people are going to want to do that back.
Right.
So it can't be undersold how important being playful and taking it lightly is in the dating aspect. And when you're approaching women, every interaction you have some lightheartedness about it. I think it can go a long way. And people really appreciate that. People want to surround themselves with people that make them feel happy, or there's a reason to live, or passionate. And you just can't fake it. You can fake it to a degree, but it's very difficult to truly fake that. So again, it's just about self-discovery before you put yourself out there even. And part of self-discovery is also, while you're putting yourself out there, learning from these experiences, learning from these interactions, and realizing, wow, I can shape myself to be however I want. There's some natural inclinations I have, but, you know, maybe I'll get a little haircut around my personality. Some areas, just trim up here and there to be the person I want to be. And that's such a satisfying thing, because you'll see it responded to well in every avenue of your life, I believe. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah.
And that's what I would like to believe.
Yeah,
and we're back. Sorry about that. Some technical difficulty with the video card needing to be formatted. Yippee.
Right.
So we're on the topic of dating.
Right. We've talked about a lot of things, but I wanted to also talk about some practical stuff, right?
Okay.
Of dating. For example, what is the most ideal location for the first date?
Oh, I'd have to say without a doubt, and I think we agree on this. Coffee shop.
Right.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
It's got tea, got coffee, got water. Everybody loves
Right.
water.
It's more casual, right? It's not too serious. It's not too expensive, right? Obviously, you have to choose a location that is mutually close. You know, you don't have to be too considerate as a man to drive all the way to, close to her place or something like that. Again, this is a mutual, so make sure that the first date location is mutually close, mutually convenient. It doesn't have to be one-sided.
Yeah, you shouldn't
Yeah.
set the precedence early on that you're
Right.
willing to go maybe necessarily too far out of your way. Even if it's kind, it can perhaps send the wrong message. And again, you should be mutually beneficial for one another. So
Right.
try to be even in this regard, at least. If you want to pick up the bill for the coffee, sure. I don't think you're gonna offend anybody or you're gonna break the bank by spending a few extra bucks for the coffee.
It's nothing, right?
But
Yeah.
I think it's way better to have coffee than alcohol on a first date, because even though I think most people are nervous on a first date, that it's good to have those nerves and kind of it shows that you're maybe interested or that there's something to be lost or gained in the situation. But again, with experience and time, I think you lose the nerves altogether. I don't get nervous at all when I go on dates anymore, just because I've been on so many. I'm sure it's the same for you. You've been on so many, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm just meeting somebody again.
Right.
No expectations.
Yeah.
Just gonna have a nice exchange.
It's still
of
exciting,
words.
though.
Yeah. I mean, it's still exciting, but there's
Yeah.
no trepidation. I'm not worried.
Right. Of course not. There's no reason to be. But also, you talked about bill. Coffee is, no brainer. It's cheap. You can pay for it. I'm still of the old-fashioned view that the guys have to, need to pay the first bill. Especially if it is dinner or, the first day you can go to dinner, right? It doesn't have to be at the Ritz or something like that. No Burger Kings, though.
Cheap man over here. What about Chick-fil-A? Is that good? We can go to Chick-fil-A.
I wouldn't have any problem, but yeah. But this is sort of the rule that I have. So dinner or drinks could be a little more expensive than coffee, right? So it really depends on you, right? If you are really having a good time, and especially you want to ask her for a second date, then you should probably pick the bill.
Yeah,
that's a nice
polite.
move.
It
right?
is nice,
Yeah.
and I do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, first meals, first date, I'll
Yeah.
get the coffee or the dinner or the drink, whatever it is. I'm not really worried about it. So, but if you're wanting somebody that is worried about money, then if it's gonna leave you in a negative headspace to do that, maybe just ask, hey, can we split the bill? A lot of women are more than happy to split the bill because they also don't want to feel as if they owe somebody something. I've ran into that.
Sure, some
And
people think that
sometimes
way.
I have to reassure somebody, like, trust me, this has nothing to do with I'm expecting something from you. It's just something I like to do. And again, if they're uncomfortable with it, then you should be willing to budge on that issue. But like we've said before, the nice thing about a coffee shop is that you're not really enjoying the conversation. You're not hitting it off. It can be as short as 15 minutes.
Sure,
You can walk out. You
That's
can go
one
do
of the
something
benefits.
else. You can share that. You just feel like, I don't think this is really going anywhere. Or I have errands. Whatever the reason is, you can get out. Or if things are going really well, you can then head to go get food, or you can hit the bars. It's just coffee is usually the happy middle ground.
Yeah.
To either
100%
leave
agree.
or continue the date.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And
Pretty
also,
good
most
situation.
people like coffee. Right?
Most people love it.
Yeah.
I
And
do
then,
love it.
there are other options as well. Tea or, so there's a lot of benefits. So, and what about how you should act on the first day?
I guess it really depends on what you're trying to convey or what you're trying to get at.
Well, yeah, of course, but let's talk about this as if we're teaching this to someone who doesn't have any experience. They want to know how.
No experience. Well, be yourself is obviously the right answer, but you should obviously try to put your best foot forward. So extra care in appearance for one when you go there. Make sure you've shaved or you've done your
Clean,
hair.
yeah.
You look clean.
That's the number one
you
thing
smell, yeah,
for
if you
guys.
smell bad, dude, what are you doing? Why are you even showing
Yeah.
up? Just rolled out of the sewer to come on this date?
Yeah, that it just got out of the bad look. Really doesn't work, especially on the first date. Like if you've had a sex with a girl, maybe that's fine. But like if that's just purely first date, then no.
If she knows you, then it's more okay to be less dressed up. But still, you should always try to put some efforts into your appearance. And I think it's difficult. Most men, I learned a lot of that stuff later in life. I'm still learning things in that regard. But that should be your first approach, I think, is that take care of yourself, brush your teeth, make sure you smell good, look good. And then, from there,
all right,
listen.
Yeah,
Try
that's
to be
a big
engaging,
part.
listen, give feedback, and also speak your piece, which can be difficult because oftentimes you're uncomfortable and you don't know this person, you don't know how they're going to react, but it's better to be honest. And again, if you have maybe some strong controversial opinions or things that are not maybe accepted in the society that you believe, don't lead with those. And if you're going to, choose your words very carefully and try not to be abrasive.
Yeah, the first date, you really don't have to show your opinions on those heavy topics. Just be neutral. Just listen to her. I think, the big part is that you got to be sensitive as a man. Look interested, and considerate, witty. All that is important. But also, like you said, it's important to be yourself. Because as soon as you try to do something that is not really natural to you, it's going to show, right?
Yeah, I mean, people have a bullshit detector for lack of genuine, big time. They know when it's like, oh, this dude's putting on a show. You might be able to fake it really well, but most people can tell you're being disingenuous.
Yeah. And also another thing is that it's okay to have some pauses in the conversations. Like guys actually freak out when they feel like, when they feel this pause, there's no really exchange of words. Like there's a lot of them freak out, but don't freak out. Like you don't have any obligation to keep, you're not interviewing her, right? I mean, you're having a conversation. So it's okay to have those pauses. So just wait for her to talk. That's fine too.
Yes. Yeah. It's mutually beneficial. Again, this is a conversation with another person just like you.
Yeah.
If you're talking to your friend, you don't need to fill the silence. I really can't stand when I'm on a date with somebody and they feel so uncomfortable that they feel the need to fill the silence with gibberish or nonsense. When it's
there's a negative effect when you try, right?
Yes,
that's a bad
thing. And it's totally understandable. And again, you have to, forgive yourself and the other person because it's going to happen when you're inexperienced. But again, this might be a personal preference. I love a girl that can just sit there with me and we can enjoy each other's company without the exchange of words. And again, it's hard to do on a first date because you don't know each other. But I feel like it's a much more relaxed pace. When you slow down, can enjoy yourselves. She's not going to get up and walk away if you're not saying something or asking interesting questions. The last thing you want to feel on a date for yourself or for somebody else is if this is work. It's taxing. It's exhausting. We want it to feel natural, ideally. Like it's dancing. It's enjoyable. It has its ups and its downs. But overall, you don't want to feel exhausted. Like, oh, why do I have to do this? I have to come up with another question or I have to think of another response. It shouldn't
be that way. Well, if you're feeling that way, either you're really inexperienced, you just don't know what to do, you're super uncomfortable, you're just acting that way, or that person is not interesting to you, just walk away, man. Either way.
Just evaluate it at the end of the date. You can go back and see, well, is this tied to my inexperience or is this because we have incompatibility and I don't like her? And you should be able to have, over time, a pretty good idea of which one it is. And maybe it's a combination of both. So maybe it's the second date, maybe it's a text afterwards. Hey, it was nice meeting you. I'd love to have another conversation with you over dinner or something of that nature. Or maybe it's so obvious that you just want to see her again and it flowed naturally. And that's the best case scenario. That's usually the thing that doesn't take work, right?
Yeah.
And those things usually end up becoming relationships. Because
Pretty
there's no
rare,
work.
but yeah, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, when there's no effort, when it feels like natural, those things typically I've seen progress into something a little more serious.
Yeah.
Not that they necessarily have to, but it's always nice when they do, if that's what you're after in your life, or if that's what they also want. There's a mutual benefit there.
Right.
So, yeah, first place you should go, we would suggest coffee shop.
Coffee shop.
Now, if you're just trying to hook up, and that's their plan and your plan, and it's obvious, then you're probably going to go to the bar first.
Right.
Sure, maybe it's a little more about the physical side of things and kind of letting go of those inhibitions via drinking or other drugs. Then, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that either. But on average, I think if you're trying to build something more than those, hit up the coffee shop first, maybe get some Theory of Living coffee. Then
that sounds good, actually. It's coming, actually, right?
Yeah. Pretty exciting news, actually. So we've started a private label, and we'll be selling coffee. So you'll be able to get it through Amazon on the website,
or the highest tier of our Patreon members.
Oh, of course. If you're pledging the highest tier, then we'll obviously send you coffee among the other benefits included there.
Yes.
And we love coffee, and this is going to be the first batch in the first round. So we're doing 400 pounds, and then we're going to pledge some more flavor profiles the next time. Maybe something less simple, but we want it to get other people's opinions on the coffee. If there's an interest in buying coffee, what people like, what people dislike, and then we can tailor our blends or our bean and the roasting process to meet those flavor profiles. Because, I mean, we love coffee. We talk about it all the time. We drink it. That's what's in the cups. It's not whiskey, unfortunately. But I don't even like whiskey. I'm saying that.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be something that all of you can enjoy, and it'll be available within, I think we're looking at probably early January. Should be in the warehouses, maybe sometime in January. But that's TBD, to be determined.
We'll definitely announce it when it's fixed. But you want to talk about the Kant's letter? Because I thought that they would be really a good closer.
Sure. You're talking about the woman who wrote Kant. Do you remember her name? I don't recall.
Yeah, Maria von, maybe not the middle name, but Herbert. Yeah.
Maria Herbert. Okay, so she had gone through a really rough heartbreak, and she had wrote Kant essentially saying, I understand your views on morality, and even though I agree with them, the reality of my situation and the gravity of the situation clashes with this thought.
Right.
And I can't bear to continue to live, and I'm having ideas and thoughts about suicide, essentially. And then you said, how did Kant respond to her?
Kant, his response was basically that first he tells her there's a difference between reticence and dishonesty. And he clarifies that first. And then he tells her that basically time will cure it, But also another thing is that the enjoyment that you get from people are overly, highly overrated. That's what it was saying, especially the happiness based on the external sources. So that was his advice, and she wrote 2 more times, but he didn't really reply to those letters, and then she ended up killing herself after 8 years of life.
Wow.
Yeah. And the really funny thing is that her brother...
Oh, this is funny to you? Sorry, go on.
Did I say funny?
Funny.
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't mean that way.
I know what you mean.
Really strange that her brother actually committed suicide as well after a few years.
Wow, after her suicide, he killed him?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So it almost seems like there's maybe some hereditary genetic
could be
too.
Because on the third letter she says that basically she's getting better and all that, but after 8 years she did it anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess that goes to say that, even with all the, obviously Kant, everything he wrote was much more deep than what we've touched on here.
Right.
But even though something logically, it can still be very difficult to apply
That's
emotionally.
one thing that we can take away from that. Yeah.
But I think what we tell anybody that's listening to this is what we've mentioned today, approaching people, developing the skill. It takes time, and you really do got to give it an honest effort. And it's not going to happen overnight. Some people it will. Some people it'll click.
Right.
But that's a vast minority. Most of us, it's going to take years of experience. It's going to take, tens to hundreds of approaching people of the opposite sex, same sex, whatever, to develop a robust skill set to communicate effectively in a way where you're trying to woo somebody, you're trying to have a business relationship, trying to develop a friendship, you're trying to date or otherwise. So I would implore anybody who's listening to be patient with yourself. Enjoy the process. That's the fun.
Yes. Yeah, that's
is
a
that
big part.
Eventually you're going to look back, and where you started to where you are now is going to be miles. It's going to be vast.
Right.
And there's so much joy that you'll get in the process if you take it not very seriously, but serious enough to actually have real change. But again, we don't want anybody killing themselves over this, because these relationships are one aspect of life. I think they're a huge aspect, but they're one part of life. So just remember that when you go out there and you're talking to people.
True. It's really important to know that your happiness shouldn't be really dependent on external sources. I think that's one of the most important things to know. A lot of times in a relationship, person can develop the dependence, right? And then they feel like, I cannot be happy without this person. But that's not really true, right? Even if that's true, if you feel that way, that is not real happiness for you. That is not, true happiness for you.
You might have been outsourcing a lot of your happiness and putting it on somebody unfairly, which I think happens a lot in relationships where, you're dating, it's new, it's exciting. Oh, I feel alive. I feel so good. This other person completes me. And then you get 3-6 months into it and you realize, wow, I'm not really that happy, because this person becomes familiar.
Right.
And then all the issues that you had that you never dealt with
reemerge.
But you misattribute it to the person. You say, well, they're the problem. I mean, what's changed? Oh, it's gone stale. This isn't love. But really, it could have been something internal to you. And unless you do the work and the time to examine all these things internally and have self-love and address them readily, you're potentially setting yourself up to lose an awesome partner or end up with the wrong partner, period. So, I mean, bottom line, you got to take care of yourself before you even engage with somebody else. Or you should. And again, it's a learning process. When you're engaging with somebody, they're going to reveal things that you didn't realize you had with you. Issues. Maybe they do something that makes you jealous. Oh, well, why do I feel jealous? Is it rational? Is it realistic? Is it understandable? Or any range of emotion? But that person can be a huge torch to illuminate issues we have internally. And then we can work on them. And we can become better for it. We can become better partners, better employees, better employers, better friends, all of that. Because we have somebody else that's reflecting this image back to us. And we should always, I believe, strive to be better. Because it gives us direction in life, something to aim for. And that is invaluable. It makes life worth living in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Good summary, man. I like that.
Well, I think we're about to wrap it up. About 56 minutes in here. So thanks, guys, for tuning in this week for dating and some relationships.
I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get out there and talk to some girls. See you guys.
See ya. Bye. That's this week's episode of the Theory of Your Living podcast. Thank you for listening with us. We're Cody and Kai. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode.
And if you'd like to help support us, we have a Patreon page where you can subscribe for exclusive content.
Also, please share with others who you think may find value in our discussion.
Leave a rating, a review, and please subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube.
Thank you again.
See you later.